It's that time of the week when former football and sports stars share their stories. It happens all right here, right now, on Thursday Night Tailgate. With your hosts, Chris-Mascaro and bob-lazzari. Guys, have some fun. Enjoy the guests. Take it away.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Good evening, everybody. Chris-Mascaro and bob-lazzari here with you on Thursday Night Tailgate, your home for interviews and conversations with the greatest players in the history of the NFL and home of the NFL Alumni Association and the Gridiron Greats. TNT is brought to you by the great folks over at Kyvan Foods, Coastal Orthopedics, the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory, and the French Lick Resort. So here we are tonight, right? We're kicking off our 6th year of doing Thursday Night Tailgate. If you weren't with us last week, you missed our 5-year anniversary special and our guest Hall of Fame induction ceremony. It was a great night filled with some great friends and their inspirational stories. If you happen to miss it, you can go to our show's Facebook page, or you can go to Bob's page, my page on Facebook as well, or any of the great sites that you can find our show on, like our good friends over at Podbean. We're on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Stitcher, Player.fm, iTunes, YouTube, Audio Boom, any of those places you can go to stream our show for free, folks. You can stream it live or at your convenience whenever it's there for you. We had a great time with this year's Hall of Fame class, which included, Levon Kirkland, Tony Collins, Paul Alexander, Eddie Kennison, J.J. Burden, Vincey Glenn, all great folks and great friends of the show. So we've got one other inductee, that is Toy Cook, and he is going to join us here in a couple of weeks. So we look forward to catching up with Toy. But please check out the show. We had a great time. If you enjoy an upbeat, inspirational show with great stories, well, you're really going to enjoy last week's show. We had such a great time doing it. So tonight, Bob and I are excited to kick off year number 6. We're going to have some old friends and some new ones with us as well. First up tonight is going to be former Pitt and Cincinnati Bengals, nose tackle, defensive tackle, and then defensive end, really, Gary Burley. Is going to join us. He's going to be making his TNT debut with us. He'll be along with us about 15 minutes from now. At the bottom of the hour, former Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins is going to join us, and go through our 5-star picks of the week. Following Tony, former Notre Dame and Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Terry Hanratty is also going to be making his TNT debut with us. I'm very excited to catch up with Terry. We'll kick off hour number 2 with a return visit from one of our good friends and former Rams and Bucs wide receiver and kick returner Vernon Turner. Look forward to getting an update from Vernon about the movie that's being made about his life. He'll join us a little bit past the top of the next hour. And then we'll round out the show with another great friend that we got to make this year, and he's back for a third time with us, and that is former Vikings Pro Bowl defensive tackle Keith Millard. So we're going to have a lot of fun tonight, folks, so please sit back, relax, let us take your mind off everything else going on in your life for the next couple of hours. Well, let's start by bringing in my co-host, Mr. bob-lazzari. Bob, how are you tonight, my friend?
I'm hanging in there. How about yourself, Chris?
I'm hanging in there as well, Bob, but, as we were sort of texting back and forth last night, our Red Sox clinched the American League East title last night, but, I think that had to be the worst clinching effort in the history of baseball, giving up 5 runs in the bottom of the ninth to lose to the Yankees, clinching the division, thanks to the Blue Jays losing a little bit earlier to the Orioles. So, I so wanted, Bob, for the Red Sox to be able to dance and celebrate on the diamond at Yankee Stadium. Instead, they, sort of have, I'm guessing, had a, somewhat subdued celebration in the clubhouse. But boy, that was difficult to watch.
Yeah, normally, Chris, I wouldn't turn a game. I wouldn't keep a game on that was totally out of whack. But this one I kept to the end, and I'm saying to myself, you just never know. The Yankees don't have really much pressure on them anymore, and a guy like Kimbrel, we've had our hearts pumping with him throughout the year, and he was just horrific. And as good as it is to win a division, I got to think that the celebration in the clubhouse was a little down. I mean, when you lose a game like that at any time of the year, it just does not sit well. It shouldn't sit well, and I don't know how you could celebrate on it. I'd say, next win, after the next win, have a good celebration. But that was brutal. And like we had texted today, if Kimball is your closer and he's got to pitch 5-6 games during the postseason, are you confident that he's going to be lights out on all 5? I'm not. So that would be my concern right now. And but we'll talk more about that on Tuesday, I would definitely imagine, correct?
That's right. And Bob was talking about our show on Tuesday nights from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time called Viewed from the Lone Red Seat with our good friend Dave Radigan. So, I'm sure we'll be talking at length about that. But, that was a very bitter win or bitter loss last night. Bob, I want to get your thoughts about what we've learned so far, and particularly last week in week 3 in the NFL season. First, help me out here, Bob. I need you here. The Steelers, you talk about awful performance. What an awful performance against the Eagles last Sunday. The Steelers defense looked horrible. They're 31st in the league against the pass. They finished 30th last year. So just when you thought they couldn't get any worse heard you, and they got worse. So they're giving up, 300. They've given up 300 yards passing to every quarterback so far this season. They made Carson Wentz, I should say, look like the second coming of Joe Montana. They did the same, unbelievably, to Johnny Manziel, who had a 300-yard passing game against them last year. So, Bob, can you talk me and the rest of Steelers Nation off the ledge? Did we overestimate them, or can we just say it was one bad week?
Let's hope it was one bad week, because, Chris, my Super Bowl pick was Pittsburgh and Arizona. That's not looking well right now, is it? So we got to get back on track here. But that was pretty bad, Chris. And, they're still 2-1. Having given up more points than they scored, and to be 2-1, you got to look, the glass is half full. That was an awful effort. I say it to myself. And it just goes to show you, Chris, how unpredictable the NFL is this year, and it's gotten like this the last few years. I mean, for us to predict scores like we're going to do very shortly, again, we might as well flip coins for every game, correct? I mean, it's like I can't go into any pick that I make saying this is definitely going to happen now, because so many things are just senseless these days. Who thought Baltimore would be this good? You got a team like Houston that just can't score points and has given up more than they've scored, and they're still 2-1, and you have teams that you thought were going to be really, really good, and that they're disappointing, and we can go up and down, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about this, but Steelers and the Cardinals right now, Arizona, if you told me they'd lose 2 out of their first 3, even if one was New England, I'd say you're crazy, but again, it's a long season, Chris, but the NFL, and I'm sure you agree, over the last 5-6 years is getting almost impossible to pick on a weekly basis.
Right. Yeah, and Bob, to your point, boy, I mean, I think, obviously we both had the Steelers in the Super Bowl. You thought very highly of the Cardinals, and I certainly thought the Cardinals could get there too. So to think that they're both coming off pretty poor performances, we'll see. Cardinals get the Rams and the 49ers in back-to-back weeks, so they could easily right the ship. But, if they were to somehow lose to the Rams this coming weekend, and they're 2-1, I mean, the Rams offense is nothing to get excited about, but you got to imagine things could get pretty ugly pretty quick for Bruce Arians as well down there in Arizona. And, Bob, another team that's, raising eyebrows due to some, early struggles are the Carolina Panthers. I was never one of those that, thought Cam Newton was, the MVP of the league last year. I just couldn't understand why a guy who was 28th in completion percentage and near the bottom anytime you pressured him was a guy that you would have as an MVP. But, he won that award. But, now you look at it this year, Bob, right? We saw how poorly he performed, in the Super Bowl. He performed pretty poorly in the opening night against the Broncos. He's again 28th in the league in completion percentage. Even now he's got 2 wide receivers. He got Beachum back, right? And, he and Funchess are both over 6'4". He's the 25th rated passer in the league, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, picked off 3 times last week against the Vikings, and he's been sacked 12 times, which is tied for the most in the league so far this year. And they, too, are 1-2, and they're coming in here to Atlanta this week, which you'll remember from last year. The Falcons were the lone team to beat them in the regular season. They did it here in Atlanta as well. So, Bob, what do you make of the Panthers so far this season?
Well, I was asked on a radio show a few weeks ago, Chris. We were talking about the upcoming NFL season, and the guy always usually asks me, what's a team that people are that think are going to be really good, who may not be as good as we think, and another team that is not that highly touted that may surprise. And believe it or not, I picked Atlanta to be that surprising team, and maybe Carolina to be the team that doesn't do too well. And it happens that they're going to be playing each other, so this ought to be interesting. But to answer your question, Chris, Newton, I agree with you about, MVP type player. I mean, you wonder how long this guy can play. And we've said this about guys like Michael Vick and everything. He seems a little more in control than a guy like Vick, but has that same kind of game. I mean, he's almost their leading rusher on the team, Chris. That can't happen. I think he's about 18 yards behind Whitaker, who leads that team. So, I mean, that can't happen. This guy's not going to last the season. He's already taken some brutal hits if he continues to play this way. Again, 5 interceptions already. That equals his TD pass completion total. So, I mean, this team, Chris, it may be a combination. It tells you how hard it is to repeat in this league, how hard it is to even win your division, never mind get to the Super Bowl. But, yeah, I mean, the running game, Chris, it's got to get better. That's a team that, and they did lose guys like Norman, and you wonder if it's the same hungry team. They still have some guys like Kuechly and Olsen. I like guys like them. But there's a lot of magic there last year, and there was a lot of pressure. You remember the undefeated streak and everything. So
right.
I think all of that comes back to you as far as these guys are only human, and it seems like they're definitely on some kind of hangover. And, again, if a team that was highly touted that may not do as well as people thought, that would be my pick, the Panthers. So in a way, I am a little surprised, but I could understand the hangover.
One more before we move on, Bob. I wanted to get your thoughts, and I mentioned this a moment ago, Carson Wentz, right? Are we seeing the budding of a great young quarterback? I mean, for crying out loud, Bob. Guys are obviously Eagles 3-0, right? They drummed my Steelers last week, made them look silly. He's 7th in the league in passer rating. 103.8 is his passer rating right now. He's yet to throw an interception in 3 games, right? Rookie record. Against 5 touchdown passes. He's completing 65% of his passes. To me, he's making that trade of Sam Bradford and going with him out of the gate look like a genius move. Curious to get your thoughts, Bob. We're always quick to unite, I should say not unite, anoint someone as great, right? We throw that around, it seems like in the media, too quickly. But boy, he's off to a really good start.
That's a great point, Chris, and you're right about the whole Sam Bradford thing. It's making them look so good, and this is a team that was kind of in shambles at the end of last year. And if you're just an NFL football fan, it's almost happy to see them, matter again and to be taken like they are. 3-0. I think the biggest point you made was 0 picks, Chris. For any quarterback after 3 games, or for any quarterback over a 3-game stretch, no matter how long you've been playing. To have no interceptions, it's a big reason why they're 3-0. And 65% of his passes, that's going normal. 250 yards a game, that's kind of normal. It's the lack of turnovers, Chris, that wins in this league. And I'm not going to call him a quote-unquote game manager, although his stats are kind of backing that up right now. But this is a team that's been able to run the ball pretty well. I think the 92 points is the second in the NFL. If you had told anyone that under a rookie quarterback, you'd say, you got to be crazy. But see, this is part of the NFL that makes no sense to me, and every week we come up with something crazy. But, yeah, kudos to him. I'm not going to anoint him as being great yet, but if he does this for another 6-7 games, it looks like they made the totally the right decision, and this guy will be considered the real deal.
Yeah, no, he certainly looked very good last week. Now, again, the Steelers defense is making everybody look good. But, boy, I was very impressed. I was impressed with him early on because of his poise. He looked very poised in the first 2 games, and, boy, he just looked so good, so comfortable back there. So it's going to be fun to watch him as the season goes on. All right, everyone, like we do here every week on Thursday Night Tailgate, we want to send out a big hello and an even bigger thank you to our military personnel who are listening in around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network. We can't thank you enough for doing what you do to protect all of us and our way of life. For everyone else listening in on the the station or the app of your choice, we can't thank you enough for doing so as well. And we hope you'll join us in thanking our brave men and women that are serving in our military. If you happen to see any of our servicemen or women out in your daily life, whether you're in the grocery store, you're in the airport, at a restaurant, just out and about, wherever you might be, stop for a moment and tell them thank you. They are our true heroes. We also want to thank our veterans for your service and the sacrifices that you and your families have made for us over the years. Big thank you as well to Sean Cruz and all the wonderful folks over at the Armed Forces Radio Network. We are so honored that Thursday Night Tailgate continues to be a part of your network. You can find our show by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org. And veterans, please continue to check out globalvoiceforveterans.org. What a great site with news and articles that has a wealth of information that you're going to find both interesting and beneficial to you. Again, globalvoiceforveterans.org. TNT is brought to you by the great folks over at Kyvan Foods, which is owned and operated by our good friend and former Bengals and Falcons tight end and TNT Hall of Famer Reggie Kelly. If you want to be king of the grill, folks, it is a must that you use Kyvan Sweet Barbecue Sauce, ranked number 15 in the world by Barbecue Superstars. This barbecue sauce is a must for the big game for all of your tailgating needs. It is available at select Walmarts and Kroger's throughout the eastern half of the country. For locations, online orders, and recipes, check out their website at Kyvan82.com. And Kyvan is Kyvan. And if your local Walmart doesn't carry the Kyvan Sweet Barbecue Sauce, well, request it. I'm sure they'll be happy to add it to their shelves for you. TNT is also sponsored by Dr. Peter Candelora and the great folks over at Coastal Orthopedics. If you're dealing with joint pain, folks, whether it's in your shoulders, your elbows, your hips, your knees, your feet, don't just live with it. Do what the Gridiron Greats do to get relief, and that is contact Coastal Orthopedics. They can get you back to enjoying life. For more information, check them out online at bone-dr.com. Baseball season, right? We're heading into the postseason. If you love the game, you're going to absolutely love the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory. They were recently welcomed into the TripAdvisor Certificate of Excellence Hall of Fame. The museum is a very cool experience for everybody in the family because you get to walk their live production line. You get to see the bats being manufactured right there in front of you. A couple of weeks ago, you heard their executive director, Ann Jewell, on here with us talking about the Ripley's Believe It or Not exhibit, which has some bizarre baseball treasures out there for you to see. Don't miss the Bat Vault, folks. You hear me bragging about that every single week here on Thursday Night Tailgate. You get to go in there and you get to hold bats, used by some of the game's greatest legends, like Hank Aaron, Ted Williams, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, my favorite growing-up, Willie Stargell. To find out more information about the museum and to book your visit, go to sluggermuseum.com. Folks, also check out our friends up at the French Lick Resort. You want to talk about a fantastic place to stay and play golf or to simply relax and enjoy yourself. What a fantastic setting they have up there. 2 championship golf courses right there on the property, one designed by Pete Dye, the other by Donald Ross. The Pete Dye design course hosted last season's Senior PGA Championship. They just hosted the LPGA Legends Championship as well. The Donald Ross design course was the site of Walter Hagen's PGA Championship victory back in 1924. Got a great spa right there on the site. And oh, by the way, my friends, they've got a casino there for you as well. To find out more information to book your stay, go to FrenchLake.com. And finally, we want to say, please don't forget our friends at the Gridiron Greats organization. Please help support a wonderful cause that's taking care of the guys who literally left so much of themselves out on the field. Folks, these are the guys who played back when they had to get off-season jobs to help to support themselves and their families, no health care coverage. It is organizations like this one that was started by Mike Ditka, the Gridiron Greats, who are there trying to help the guys that we all watched, growing up and reading about as well. Please go to gridirongreats.org to see what you can do to get involved. All right, we're going to have our first guest, Gary Burley, joining us on the line. We're going to get to Gary on the other side of these words from our friends over at Kyvan Foods.
Add great flavor to your next tailgate party with Kyvan salsas. Former NFL tight end Reggie Kelly created these salsas for dipping chips and much more. In hot and mild flavors, Kyvan salsas make a great marinade. They are terrific in meatloaf and are super toppers for everything from baked potatoes to scrambled eggs. It's a great ingredient to enjoy in a variety of family favorite meals. And some people say Kyvan salsa is a meal to itself. With all the possibilities, Kyvan is truly salsa with soul. Kyvan salsas are also made from natural ingredients, and they are preservative-free. So look for Kyvan, that's Kyvan, at area Walmart stores or online. Click on the Kyvan logo on our website to check retail and online locations. More information at Kyvan82.com.
All right, now joining us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Gary Burley. Let me give you some background on Gary. He is from Grove City, Ohio, which is in the central part of the state, not far from Columbus. Played 2 years at Wharton Junior College, where he was a 2-time Junior College All-American. He made a great choice and transferred to the University of Pittsburgh, where he was an All-American nose tackle. Played in the 1974 All-American Bowl and the 1975 East-West Shrine Game. He was a third-round draft pick of the Cincinnati Bengals in 1975, and he played in the league from 75 to 1984. All except his last season was with the Bengals, and he finished his career here in Atlanta with the Falcons. He was a member of the Bengals' 1981 Super Bowl team, and we're very excited to have him with us tonight on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Gary, Chris, and Bob here. Thank you for joining us.
Hey,
Thanks,
guys.
Gary.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, Gary, let's start with your decision to play your last 2 seasons of college ball at Pitt. I'm from Pittsburgh, and as a kid from Grove City, Ohio, that you were, which is only a few hours from Pittsburgh, but obviously just down the street from Ohio State. As a 2-time Junior College All-American, I had to believe that there are a lot of colleges knocking on your door to get your services. How did Pitt end up winning out?
Well, they were a lot of colleges that showed interest. And I started doing some recruiting trips, and I went to Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma was playing Iowa at the time, and Coach Jackie Sherrill happened to be in the steam room where I was at. So I'm listening to him and his coaches talk about recruiting the defensive lineman out of Wharton Junior College. So I'm sitting here listening to these guys, and they don't know it's me. So so finally, after the steam was over, Coach comes up to me and says, "Hey, man, you're a big guy. You play football?" I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Where do you play?" I said, "I play at Wharton Junior College in Texas." He said, "Do you know that Gary Burley kid?" I said, "Yeah, Coach, it's me." So to make a long story short, I told him that I wasn't interested in going to Iowa State, and that we parted as friends. Well, about 2 months later, I get this call from Coach Sherrill that he was sending Coach Jim Dyer down to talk to me about coming to Pittsburgh because they left Iowa State and Coach Majors took the Pittsburgh job. So anyway, Coach Dyer and I became great friends, and he was like a brother to me, or uncle, or whatever you want to call it. And that's what convinced me to come to Pittsburgh.
So, Gary, as I was kind of looking back over, your history there at Pitt, and your first season was 1973, which, is, as you point out, was Johnny Major's first year as head coach there. They also had a freshman running back named Tony Dorsett show up. What was it like for you chasing Tony Dorsett around at practice?
It made me a lot better, I can tell you that. But the first time that I saw Tony Dorsett, we were outside at practice, and we were running 40-yard dashes. And I look over at this kid. He probably weighed 150 pounds, and he had on some high-top Chuck Taylor tennis shoes. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And I saw the coaches afterwards. They kept looking at their clocks after they timed him, and everybody wouldn't believe it. He ran a 4.340 in high-top Chuck Taylor tennis shoes.
Wow.
And when I saw that, I knew that this kid was going to be something special. And then working out with him every day and playing with him for the 2 years, I can't tell you what a great experience that was. Great times. And last week, oh God, we all went back to the Pitt Penn State game, and all my guys came down, all my teammates, guys I haven't seen in 40 years. We're all together, and I'm still amazed at the way people praised TD. I mean, everywhere we went, they were just all over him, and it was just so good to see, man. He was happy, and everybody was glad to see each other, and we sat down and talked all night about the old days. So it was a great experience.
After you left, obviously, in 76, you leave in 75, 76. Pitt goes on to win the national championship. Curious, Gary, did you get to go back and, be a part of that at all, in between, times with the Bengals, maybe it was the Friday after Thanksgiving for the traditional Pitt-Penn State game as it was back then, or maybe on New Year's Day to the Sugar Bowl when they beat Georgia?
I didn't go to the game, but I was back and forth in Pittsburgh. Actually, I lived there for the first year. My rookie year, I lived in Pittsburgh after the season was over. But it was just, we've got our haunts, our stomping grounds, the original hot dog, which is 100 years old now. And everybody met there, and it was just so good to see guys. And when you see them, I'm 63 years old, so all the rest of the guys are probably that age or close to it. Mm-hmm. I could still see those guys in 1973 and 2016. And it was just a great time to go back and forth to Pittsburgh. But, yes, I do go back from time to time.
Bob, questions for Gary?
Hey, Gary, it's great to speak with you. And we often start the interviews out with our guests, taking them back to their to draft day, Gary. And that's 75 draft. I was looking at it this afternoon, and I don't think people realize, of course, you had your Walter Payton who went on to the Hall of Fame, but you had a couple of defensive players like your Randy White and Fred Dean, and a slew of other defensive guys went very high in that draft. I was just wondering what your expectations were that day. What do you remember about it, the excitement about it?
Well, I remember, that was before cell phones and social media and that type of thing. So we had to call each other, and we were trying to figure out who was going to go first. So I'm on the phone with Walter Payton, Neil Cozy, Robert Brazile, and Gary Big Hands Johnson, and we're all wondering, okay, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And back in those days, there were 16 rounds in the draft, so you can imagine waiting all day long to hear your name called. But as soon as that happened, Walter got called, and then Neil got called, and then it went on. The first round went on, second round went on, and then in the third round, I get a call from Cincinnati, and it was just perfect because I grew up 100 miles from Cincinnati, so that means that all my friends and relatives and my parents can come and see me play. But it was the longest day of my life waiting on that call. And when it finally did happen, it was like, wow, it's all worth it. Everything that you put into it is now you're going to have a chance to utilize that.
And Gary, those Bengal teams back in the mid-'70s, and that's when I really cut my teeth on following football. They were synonymous with Paul Brown, and at that time when you came in the league, the guy was the owner, the president, the GM, and of course we knew his coaching record. What was your relationship like with him, your attitude toward him? According to many, one of the great football minds and men who ever was in the sport.
Well, I tell you what, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Meeting Coach Brown prior to, after working out and all that kind of stuff and playing football, but sitting down with him after my workouts and letting him share with me how you become successful in life. And Coach always told us, he says, football is not going to last a lifetime. So you have to figure out, you have to cultivate relationships now that are going to be there when you get out of the league. And I always took that to heart. So every day that I would work out, I'd have a chance to stop by his office. Nobody else was there. We sit down, we talk, and he just shares stuff with me. And when you're sitting there listening to this guy talk, the first thing that you see is he's the guy that put the face mask on the helmets. He's the guy that did so much for the game that we enjoy today that you can't believe that this one guy did all this stuff. And then to be able to sit down and listen to him explain, and not in a bragging fashion, but just telling us what he wanted the game to be, and obviously it happened.
And Gary, you were with the Bengals during the peak of the Steelers run, back in the mid to late 70s. What do you remember about, coming back to Pittsburgh and playing against the team, when they were in their heyday from 75 to 79?
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to take that back a little bit further. My senior year at Pitt, the NFL went on strike, and the defensive line and the offensive line came to work out at Pitt Stadium. So as a rookie, before my rookie year, I had a chance to learn from L.C. Greenwood, Dwight White, Ernie Holmes, and
wow.
and the guys. And I worked out every day, and they taught me about what you need to do in the NFL. And I'll never, ever be able to repay those guys for them taking the time out to teach me. So to make a long story short, I get drafted by Cincinnati. And the first game that we played was against the Steelers. So here I am out here with these guys. I know every move they're going to make and the whole 9 yards. And we just had a ball, man. And last year, I think it was last year before last, Chris Dolman, another Pitt graduate, was honored at the Hall of Fame, selected to the Hall of Fame. And I went up there, and the first person I see is Mean Joe Green. Mm-hmm. And I said, do you remember when you guys used to work out with me at Pitt Stadium? He says, yeah, I remember. So we started talking and laughing, and it was just great. It was just great learning from those guys, man. Mm-hmm. So to play against the Pittsburgh Steelers in their heyday, it was a scary time because a lot of our offensive linemen were feared to death to have to go up against Mean Joe and L.C. Greenwood and Dwight White and Ernie Holmes. And it was like, Steeler Week. That's what we called it, Steeler Week. That's when there's going to be a whole lot of nervousness going on.
So, and Gary, the success flipped for you and the Bengals in the early 1980s. You got to be a part of, the Super Bowl 16 team against the 49ers. And as great as Joe Montana and the 49ers were at the time, if you look at the stats, you guys held them to 157 yards passing in that game. When you look back, are you happy to have had a chance to play in a Super Bowl, or does it still eat at you? Boy, we came so close.
Well, to be honest with you, if you're going to get beat, you want to get beat by somebody that's good, because people are going to remember that for the rest of the history of football. And we got beat by a great team. We got beat by a great quarterback. They had a great offensive line. They had a great defensive line. And they didn't quit. We didn't either, but they won. So to play against a team like that and to play the way we played, I am honored with those to be a part of that team, and I love every one of those guys, man.
And Gary, early on you played alongside a guy I always had a world of respect for, and that was Pro Bowl defensive end Coy Bacon. Talk about what it was like to play next to Coy.
It's funny that you bring that up, because Coy and I still hold the record for duo sacks in the history of Cincinnati. I think we had like 34 sacks or something one year. And this guy was a beast. You think about the pass rushers of today, you think about Deacon Jones and Coy Bacon being on the same team, getting up the field, head slap, and they taught me how to head slap.
No doubt.
And for you guys that don't know what the head slap is, it's one of the quickest moves ever, because the first thing that an offensive lineman does when you slap him on the ear hole is close his eyes. And if you're running full speed upfield, you're gone before he can recover. So I learned all these different moves from Coy Bacon. I had a blessed career. Senior year in high school, learning from the what do you call it, the Steelers? What was the name they had for them?
The Steel Curtain?
There's a line. The Steel Curtain.
The Steel Curtain?
Yeah, learning from the Steel Curtain as a senior, and then as a rookie, learning from Coy Bacon. So you can't go wrong with that, man.
Mm-hmm. Gary, one more before we let you go. I believe you've got a golf tournament coming up here soon. Can you give us some background on what the tournament is for, plus where and when it's going to be held?
Well, I want to give your listeners a gift here. 3 years ago, I had no symptoms. I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. And the doctor told me that the version that I had, they normally don't find until your autopsy.
Wow.
So imagine getting that kind of news when your life is just perfect. You're married to the greatest woman in the world. You got your kids all grown up, and then somebody tells you you got cancer. Well, I went on to do the treatment for it, and it didn't get any better and it didn't get any worse. So my oncologist came back to me and said, "Hey, Gary, I got something I want to run by you." I go, "Like what?" He says, "I want to do a bone marrow transplant on you. And I think that with all your blood work, I can use your own stem cells." So there's another blessing, guys.
Wow.
So I could use my own stem cells. I had the bone marrow transplant. I lost 100 pounds. And the whole time that I was in the hospital for 4 months. The whole time I was there, I was thinking about how can I pay these people back that saved my life, because they saved my life.
Right.
I was dead. I was in the hospital dying, and these people brought me back around. So I came up with the idea. I have a teammate and my best friend, Isaac Curtis. He does a celebrity golf tournament in Cincinnati every year. And I said, I need to learn how to do that. And I did. And we started doing the Gary Burley Celebrity Golf Tournament October 13th here in Birmingham at the Greystone Country Club. And the first year, we were very pleased with the results, and we're looking for a good year this year. But our thing is, what I want to relate to your listeners is that there are two kinds of cancers, those that have it and those that will get it. And what I ask all my friends and family and everybody to do is to go get checked once a year. Just once a year, get a blood test and get screened for cancer, because you don't want to wait to the last minute. Because once it's there, it's there. And you're eliminating your opportunity to win in that fight. So I say go get checked.
Great
but
advice.
That's basically it, guys.
Sure is.
So, Gary, how can our listeners follow you either online or over social media and stay up to date with all the things you're doing?
Well, I tell you, man, my wife won't let me do anything but the golf tournament and my sports and academic academy. I have a sports and academic academy called Pro Start Academy, where we teach kids the basic fundamentals of the sport, but also the academics that they're going to need to not only get in school, but stay there once they get there. And then we back that up with life skills, and we bring in the top CEOs of here in Alabama, and they teach the kids how they got from the loading dock to the boardroom. So now a kid starting at age 12 learns how to balance a checkbook, investigate stocks and bonds, and learns how to invest at the age of 12.
Wow.
So we figure by the time they're 21, they should have a good hold on life if they follow the path that we set up for them. But we're at prostartacademy.com, www.prostartacademy.com, and we will we'll be updating the website with pictures from the images from the golf tournament. But guys, I really do appreciate the opportunity to come on your show. Let me know if there's any guys that you might want to interview. I'd be glad to help you with it. If I know them, you'll know them.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Gary. And we'll probably be reaching out to you, but we can't thank you enough for taking time out of your night to be a part of the show. We hope you'll come back and share more of your stories and your insights with us, because you've been fantastic.
I'd love to. So, thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank
Take
you,
care,
Gary.
Gary. All the best to you and your family.
All right.
That is former University of Pittsburgh and Cincinnati Bengals nose tackle Gary Burley. And, boy, that's some great stuff there, Bob, and solid advice about getting checked once a year. Very important.
Yeah, we won't. I don't think we'll come up with any better advice tonight than that. It's a no-brainer. They always say early detection in any type of tough disease like that is crucial. But what a pleasure, Chris. Again, I think both of us cut our teeth on watching some of those old Bengal teams. And Isaac Curtis,
That's
who
right.
we brought up, my goodness,
Yes.
What a great player. And Boobie Clark and Ken Riley, a lot of underrated players there, but great nonetheless. And it was great talking to Gary tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we'll get some of those guys to join us as well. All right, now back with us on the Kaiven Foods guest line is former Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins to go through our 5-star picks of the week. Hey, Tony, how are you tonight?
Tony.
I'm doing fantastic. How you guys doing?
Oh, really
That's
good.
good
Thank
to
you,
hear.
Tony. So, Tony, you and you edged Bob and I last week by one game. You were 3-2 on your picks. Bob and I both finished 2-3. So after 3 weeks, it's you and I tied at 10-5. Bob only one game back at 9-6. So still a very tight race between the three of us.
All right.
All right. So tonight let's get into a first game tonight, Tony. We're going to look at the 2-1 Seahawks going to the 1-2 Jets. The Seahawks are a 2.5-point road favorite. The over/under is 40. Tony, who do you like in this one?
Man, this is a tough one. I don't know if the Seahawks quarterback is he playing this week?
Yeah, they think Russell Wilson. He's got a sprained left knee, but he's never missed a start, and he's saying he doesn't intend to make this the first one.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, I'm going to have to go with Seattle. Seattle needs to keep this winning streak going, get 2 in a row. Jets, I'm just not impressed with them at all. So I'm going with Seattle. Not pretty tight game, 27-23, Seattle.
All right. Bob, what do you think?
I think I'm with Tony this week, Chris. I mean, a lot of people are picking the Jets, trying to bounce back here at home, etc. But I think Seattle's going to break out one of these weeks. I mean, they've only scored about 50 points in the 3 games, and their defense is still their defense. I can't see the Jets really denting them too much in that way. So if they put up 20, 25 points, they're going to win. So I'm going to say I'm with Tony. I'm going to say Seattle wins. Pretty close game. How about 24-20?
All right. So, the idea that Russell Wilson has, a hurt knee, guys, obviously it's worth noting whether he decides to play or not. But, you figure if that's bothering him, he may not be scrambling as much as we're used to seeing Russell Wilson do, which is a good sign for Jets fans and the Jets front seven. But on the flip side, guys, Ryan Fitzpatrick coming off his career worst performance last week against Kansas City, threw 6 interceptions and nearly lost 2 fumbles on top of that. So almost 8 turnovers from Ryan Fitzpatrick last week. So, it's not obviously not getting any easier to your points, this week going against the Seattle Seahawks defense, which is, again, number 1 overall. They're only allowing 12 points a game. So you got to believe Fitzpatrick's confidence might be shaken just a little. And this is certainly not a defense you're going to get well against. So I'm with you guys. I'm taking Seattle. I think they win it by a little bit larger spread. I'm going to take them to win 27-17 on the road. All right, guys, game number 2, we're looking at the 1-2 Bills going to the 3-0 Patriots, Tony. Holy smokes, who would have guessed 3-0 with the Patriots after all they've been through? They're a 4.5-point home favorite. The over-under right now is actually off the board. So, Tony, I hear Steve Grogan might be playing quarterback for the Patriots this week, which I'm not sure that would make any difference if he were. So what do you think, Tony?
If Grogan was going to play, I'm pretty sure Belichick going to have a nice scheme for him. But gotta go with my Patriots, man. I don't know how anybody can go against them. Buffalo plays us tough every year, but the thing that always gets us is what's the name of the Buffalo's coach? What's his name?
Rex Ryan.
Rex.
Yeah, Rex Ryan always puts his foot in his mouth. He's always talking. He talks too much. He just does. So he's going to get our guys ready to play. Our defense is going to play well. I think Garoppolo, he's going to start this week, and we're going to win. And I think it won't be close. I think this is going to be the blowout, 37-7.
Wow, 37-7 in the Tony Collins Weekly Blowout Special. Bob, what do you think?
Yeah, I can't see Buffalo winning this game, and Tony made a good point. I mean, New England, we think of as an offensive juggernaut, but their defense is playing really good. They're only giving up 14 points a game, and we know how much they can score. So, yeah, you're right, Tony. And this team is New England's probably going to. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. Let Edelman start. Give the other guys time to. Give other guys time to heal up and everything. I'm going to say New England, they just toy with them. How about 30-13?
30-13. All right. Well, guys, one of the interesting facts is coming out, like last week, LeGarrette Blount, he rushed for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns, becoming the first Patriots running back to actually rush for over 100 yards in back-to-back games since 2012. And their defense is doing such a great job, shutting down the run. They're only allowing 90 yards a game. So we'll see how well they do stopping Shady McCoy, who, had 110 yards and 2 touchdowns last week and a win over the Cardinals. So, both defenses, though, a little vulnerable through the air, right? Pats 19th against the pass, 271 yards they're allowing per game. The Bills are worse at 22nd, giving up 285. So a slight advantage to the Patriots there. But, games in Foxborough, Patriots have only lost there twice over the last 2+ seasons. Now, one of those losses was to the Bills back in 2014, but it was a meaningless week, 17 game. So I don't know how much you want to read into that, but I should have taken Bob's advice last week and never bet against the Patriots unless it's against the Giants in the Super Bowl. So I'm with you guys. I'm taking the Patriots. I think Steve Grogan comes in, throws 4 touchdown passes, kick a field goal. They'll win by 10, 31-21. Our third game this week, Tony, the 2-1 Chiefs at my 2-1 Steelers. The Steelers are a 4.5-point home favorite. The over-under is 47.5. Tony, can my Steelers get up off the mat after being shellacked last week against the Eagles, and maybe they suit up Mean Joe Green and Jack Lambert, who might help them actually get a sack this week because they haven't really had any so far this season. What do you think? Can my Steelers get a win here, Tony?
I was surprised how they played against Philly last week, man. I really thought I didn't think Philly had a chance to beat them, but so what do I know? But Pittsburgh's they got to win this week, so I'm going with Pittsburgh. Roethlisberger's going to have a great game. Antonio Brown's going to have a great game. I see it being 27-14, Pittsburgh.
All right, Bob, what do you think?
Yeah, I like that. I like Tony's pick again. It's Pittsburgh, after that disgraceful loss last week, Chris, they have to bounce back. I mean, if it's a Super Bowl quality type team and they're playing at home, Kansas City does play good defense, but I could see Roethlisberger just chopping at the bit to get back out on the gridiron this weekend. So, yeah, Pittsburgh, I'm going to say they don't score too many, but they can score enough to win. 24-20, Pittsburgh.
All right. And guys, last season, the Steelers defense, was not very good, particularly against the pass, and they managed to somehow get even worse so far this year. They're getting zero pressure on the quarterback. So whoever they're playing has, all day back there, and the Steelers corners, I'm not sure they could cover the 3 of us now, let alone if we were in our 20s. So, but, on the upside, they get Le'Veon Bell back this week. That's going to help out the offense, so that'll be a big booster on the offensive side. We just got to get the defense to play better. Boy, I just was so disappointed in the way that, that they played last week. And really, like I said, they've given up over 300 yards passing to every quarterback they've played so far this season. But, I'm like you guys. I'm gonna stick with my boys. I think that they're gonna somehow figure this thing out. And if not, I think the Steelers are just gonna open it up with Le'Veon Bell. We'll see D'Angelo Williams in the backfield too. I think they could win a wild one here. I'm going Steelers 38-35 to get to 3-1. All right, our fourth game. We got 2 more games to pick, and then we're going to get to our guest, Terry Hanratty, who's hanging on the line. So he should have some really good insights about my Steelers as well. So our fourth game, Tony, is the 2-1 LA Rams going to the 1-2 Cardinals. The Cardinals are somehow an 8-point favorite in this game. So Vegas just isn't buying into the 2-1 Rams at all, and the over-under is 43. Tony, can the Cardinals recover and get a win in what has to be a very early season must-win for them? I can't imagine those guys being 1-3.
Yeah, I can't either, Chris. Arizona has a great defense. They really have a playoff caliber team, and really surprised of the losses that they had this year. So Rams I'm really surprised with the Rams. I thought the Rams would come out smoking, but they haven't. The offense is really sputtering, not really putting up any points. So I'm going with Arizona at home to win and actually to win big. Another blowout, 37 to shoot. I don't even know if the Rams are going to score. I'll give them 3 points.
Wow, 37-3. So 2 Tony Collins blowout specials for the week. Bob, what do you think?
I got to go with Tony again because Arizona's too good. I mean, and the Rams, to be 2-1 and to have allowed 17 points more than you've scored, it's an aberration there. So I just think this is the time where Arizona and Seattle they start making the distance between the other 2 teams in that division, and they're still smarting from getting off to the tough start. Carson Palmer gets back on track. Yeah, they're going to win this game. I'm going to go Arizona 35-17.
All right. So, the thing that, surprises me most of all when you look at both of these teams, Todd Gurley is yet to rush for 100 yards in a game. Surprised to see that. Case Keenum, not surprised. He's only throwing for 150 to 200 in a game so far. So I think that's what we thought he was. But, so I'm not sold at all on the Rams offense, though. Like I say, you would think Gurley is going to turn it on here. And this might be the week that he does. Because, the Cardinal defense that we thought was, going to be so solid, they're allowing 133 yards rushing per game, which is 28th in the league. So if they were to allow that again this week, I think the Rams could shock everybody and be 3-1. But, Arizona's at home, right? The Rams are 17th against the pass, so I think Carson Palmer should have some room to air it out a little bit. They're desperate for a win. A team that I think is desperate this early in the season is really going to play well. So I'm with you guys. I'm going to take Arizona. I think it's going to be a close one. I think it's 24-20. All right, guys, our last game this week is the 2-1 Giants going to the 3-0 Vikings on Monday night. The Vikings are a 5-point home favorite. The over-under is 43. Tony, are the Vikings going to remain undefeated after 4 weeks of the season?
Who would think that the Vikings would be 3-0? I'm going to tell you, man, Minnesota has one of the best defenses in the league.
Yes, they do.
I'm telling you, Sam Bradford is a good quarterback. He's surprisingly, he's still healthy. He's still playing. So as long as he stays healthy and their defense keeps playing like they're playing, they're going to be 4-0 after this week. So I'm going with Minnesota 27-14.
All
right. Bob, what do you think?
All right, I got to make up ground on Tony. So I got to pick the Giants. I'm going to say, you're right, guys. Minnesota's defense is incredible so far, giving up 12, 13 points a game, and the Giants, they really gave it to me last week. But I think the Giants get it together. They still have all those offensive weapons, and against a team like Minnesota, I think they can score. I think they can score 4 touchdowns. I'm going to say the Giants somehow go in there and they put up 30 points. I think the Giants are going to go and get the excitement back in New York again, like it was 2 weeks ago. They're going to win. I'm going to say the Giants win this 30-24.
All right. I don't know. I'm actually with Tony on this one, Bob. Like I say, defense wins championships, and defense is really looking good right now in Minnesota. Lead the league with 15 sacks, only allowing 84 yards rushing per game. To your point, Bob, just a shade over 13 points a game. They intercepted Cam Newton 3 times last week. Held Carolina, who was the top scoring offense in the league last year, to only 10 points. Sam Bradford, pedestrian, 18 to 28, 171 and a touchdown. But, he's just sort of getting used to that offense. We'll see how he progresses each week. But, boy, I just love that Minnesota defense. Everson Griffin had 3 sacks last week on Newton, and we'll talk more about him a little bit later in the show with Keith Millard. The Giants are, doing okay, right? Certainly, Eli 350 last week in his passing, but got picked off twice, and they lose Shane Vereen for the season with a tricep injury. So they're sort of looking at a running back by committee sort of thing. But I like Minnesota too much here. I think their defense is too good. So I'm going to take the Vikings to win, just like Tony. I got it. Tony had a 27-14. I got a 27-20. Tony, before we let you go, First of all, I got to say my UCF Knights are playing your East Carolina Pirates this weekend, so hopefully I can get off the schneid against you since you beat me in fantasy football last week. So I got to have my Knights get a win here. So go Knights.
That's not going to happen, man. You're going to be 0-2.
Tony, remind our listeners about the great things you're doing for kids in college.
TonyCollinsFoundation.com, TonyCollinsProjects.com. Go to those websites. Order a book. Every book that we sell, it goes to helping a kid go off to college. Man, we really appreciate all the help that you guys are doing for us as well, bringing me on every week to showcase that. So, guys, just want to really thank you guys for what you guys do, and you guys have a great show, man. I love being a part of it.
We appreciate you very much, Tony. All right, my friend, we'll catch up with you again next week. In between now and then, all the best to you and your family, Tony.
Thanks to you guys. Have a good one.
Take care.
Too. As former Pro Bowl, Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins and our 5-star picks of the week. All right, now joining us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is former Steelers quarterback Terry Hanratty. Let me give you some more background on Terry. He's from Butler, Pennsylvania, which is about 35 miles north of Pittsburgh. In high school, Terry was a four-sports star. He played football, basketball, baseball, and he also ran track. He played his college ball at Notre Dame, where he was a 3-year starter and a 2-time All-American, and was a part of their 1966 National Championship team, along with our good friend and Thursday Night Tailgate Hall of Famer Rocky Bleier, who, of course, Terry would reunite with later in Pittsburgh with the Steelers. Terry still ranks 10th all-time in passing yards and 11th in touchdown passes at Notre Dame. He was a second-round draft pick of my Steelers back in 1969, and he played in the NFL from 69 to 1976. All but the last season with the Steelers. He played in 1976 with the Tampa Bay Bucs during their expansion year. He was a part of 2 Super Bowl championship teams with the Steelers, winning Super Bowls 9 and 10, and we're very excited that he is with us tonight on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Terry, Chris, and Bob here. Thank you for being a part of the show.
Well, thanks for inviting me, guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad you gave me enough calls here to let me remind me to call in, because at my age, you forget these things. But I'm sitting here watching the Bengals and the Dolphins, and I'm flipping back and forth UConn and Houston College.
Yeah,
so it's a nice evening.
Yeah, no doubt. So, Terry, I wanted to start off our time with you by going back to your college days at Notre Dame. The year before you got there, 1964, was Ara Parseghian's first season as head coach, and they went 9-1, finished number 3 in the country, only because they lost their last game to USC, where they would have won the national championship that year. But prior to Ara's arrival, they had gone 2-7 and 63, 5-5, 2-8 for the 4 years before that. So they weren't the national powerhouse right at that point in time when you went there. And I had read that your decision sort of came down between Notre Dame or Michigan State. So curious to get your, why Notre Dame, and was Pitt anywhere in the idea of going there either?
No, it was always the last 2 were Notre Dame and Michigan State. And mainly because of the coaches. I don't know if you guys know Duffy Daugherty, the late Duffy. He was just a great coach and a great guy. And I almost committed to Michigan State then, and it was one time, Eric, I got a call from Notre Dame, and Eric's going to be in Pittsburgh, which is about 25 miles from Butler. And he said he wanted to have lunch at the Hilton Hotel. I went, I'd love to meet him, love to have lunch with him. So I went down there. Then we meet in the coffee shop there, and he is just so charismatic. It's incredible. And I can remember looking at the menu. Now, this is back in 1964. And looking at the menu, and I'm saying, okay, there's a steak sandwich here for $2.25. And there's a club sandwich for $1.50. Yeah. I said, will he think I'm gouging him if I go for the steak sandwich? So I ended up getting the club sandwich and onward and upward. I went home and told my mother. I said, Mom, I'm going to Notre Dame. And she was obviously very happy, but she had, liked a bunch of coaches, and she loved Woody Hayes. But I said, Mom, he throws the ball, once a game if he has to, if they're behind. So, I'm not going there.
So in 1966, Terry, you take over as a starting quarterback, and one of the running backs you had on that team is a good friend of the show, Rocky Bly, is one of our Hall of Fame guests, and we love Rocky very much. What was it like for you playing, alongside Rock at that point in both of your careers?
Well, Rock is, remains a dear friend of mine. In fact, we were just together this past week, 2 weekends ago, we had our 50th reunion, believe it or not, of our 1966 National Championship game or season. And so we, it was at the Notre Dame Michigan State game, a great reunion, not a great game, but great to see everybody. Saw Rocky there. But, Rock's one of these guys that, he's so underrated that, he had probably the best hands on the team. He's, statement of pros. He was a great blocking back. He was a lot like a small Paul Hornung. Paul could do everything. And Rocky was the same way. And, after the Vietnam, he stayed with my family and I in Pittsburgh. And, he was in bad shape at the time. And I kept trying to convince him, get the hell out of football. And, the Rooney said they would send him to law school. I said, come on, Rocky, you got free, get a free education, get a free law degree, blah, 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 blah. No, I'm going to play. I went, okay. Who would have guessed that he would have rushed for 1,000 yards?
Right.
And that was back in 14 games, not like today where it's 16.
Right. So, Terry, and you mentioned this a moment ago, right? Late in that season in 66, you guys were ranked number 1, and you had a showdown against number 2, Michigan State. Boy, both of your schools right there. And the game was in East Lansing. And with the score tied at 10, you guys had an opportunity late in that game to win it with just a little over a minute left, but you ran the ball and let the clock run out. Was there ever any discussion?
No. Get all the facts right if you're going to tell a story now. Duffy Daugherty, who I love dearly, had the ball on their 40-yard line and had a shot to continue the game and try to go for it for the first down and score the touchdown. He elects to punt to us, and we get the ball on the 20. Coley O'Brien, I was out of the game in the first quarter where Bubba Smith separated my shoulder. Nick Eddy never entered the game because he fell off the train and hurt his shoulder. George Gedeke, our starting All-American center, was out of the game. He got hurt in the first quarter. Now, Coley O'Brien, who a week earlier they found out he was a diabetic. Now he has to play because I'm hurt in the first quarter. Now they're feeding him chocolate bars and orange juice on the sideline, and we had the ball 1st and 10 from our own 20. We tried to pass, got sacked, 2nd and 18. Well, we ran a draw. We got some yardage. We went for it on 4th and 1, and we got it. And then we ran the clock out because there were only a couple seconds to go, and Coley was weak, and we were backed up. They had a guy, Dick Kenny, who kicked a 50-yard field goal. We don't want to lose it on a field goal. So, we had Southern Cal to play the next week, which went out there and beat them 51-0 in their own house. And, we're the national champions.
Bob, questions for Terry?
Yeah, Terry, I want to get back to Parseghian for a minute. When we look back at him, and from what I remember of him, he just looked like he was such a, like you said, very charismatic, a guy that would run on the field, had the cleats on, a yay, rah, rah guy. I want to know, Terry, was he a really, really good X's and O's guy, and was he more of a defensive or offensive-minded coach?
Well, he was definitely an offensive-minded coach, but he did it all. He was one of these guys, I tell people that, you get the guy who was the All-American or the guy who was the fourth team who never played. Everybody loves Ara. And we won when we were there. We didn't lose any games that we're supposed to win. And, I can't ever remember losing some games at Notre Dame, a couple of them. But it was always the execution, not because we were tricked by some defense that we weren't expecting. We fumbled the ball, I threw an interception, whatever. But we knew what the opponent was always going to do. And Ara was always a positive. I come off, I'll never forget, my worst game I ever played there was my junior year. I threw 5 picks against Southern Cal at Notre Dame. And Ara didn't say a word. I got knocked out at the end of the game, so we come out. Monday, he called me over. He said, what do you think happened Saturday? And I said, Coach, sometimes it looks like there's 2 defensive backs. Sometimes it looks like there's 20. And he sort of looked at me and went, all right, get your ass back and let's get to work. no ranting and raving in my face. What are you doing? You're ruining the game. I lost the game personally. I lost the damn game. And Ara just, stuck with you, and just, he was the consummate teacher, father figure.
And that first year in Pittsburgh, Terry, very tough, 1-13. Chuck Noll just starting to cut his teeth. But did you have an idea or get the feeling that under Noll this team would improve like it ultimately did?
Well, you knew one thing about Chuck, is that Chuck had it's going to be this way or what's going to happen. Because he was, you could tell right away that this is what he wanted to do. He had, in the Rooney family, as you know, are very patient people. Three coaches since 1969, unheard of, college or football or pros. And so that you knew that Chuck was going to get it done, but it was going to take a little bit of time. And you saw the progression. We were 1-13 our rookie year. That was a bad football team. Then got a little better. I think we were 5-9 and 9-5. Then we won Super Bowl 9-10. Then I went on to Tampa my last year, which was 0-14. So I had probably the four craziest years. 1-13 to start, 0-14 to finish, and 2 Super Bowls in the middle. I don't think anybody's seen the NFL like that. He's talking about highs and lows. But Chuck was like, we call our own. I call my own plays as a rookie, and we had 300 plays, and we could audible to about any play in the playbook. And we never got time. We never got caught for delay a game like you see these kids today, where the clock is right in their face. How do you not break the huddle? The first thing you do, you look at the clock. If it says 6 seconds, you better get your ass in gear. If it says 18, you can screw around the line a little bit. But we call our own plays, and it was you learned the game. I think a lot better than kids do today, because the coaches are calling them. They have to get themselves in the right blocking. I guess but we did that. We did the blocking. We did the plays. We did the runs. We did the blitzes. It was. I think you learned a lot more back then.
Yeah.
And Terry, you were a second round pick in '69, and that was Chuck's first year as well. But a year after they draft you number 2, they drafted Bradshaw in the first round, and you only had an opportunity to start 5 games that rookie year. You had Dick Shiner and Kent Nix were also starting quarterbacks for the Steelers throughout the '69 season, and sometimes all 3 of you got reps in the game. And you had a nice game against the Packers midseason. Bob talked about only 1 win, but you had 3 touchdown passes and a near loss to the Packers. And then they draft Bradshaw. Were you like, hey, wait a minute, what about me?
Well, it's pro football. It's you just never. All you do is keep your head down and keep working. I never shied away from competition. A lot of people say, well, would you have liked to have gone somewhere else? Like today they have free agency where you can just leave. But, I had so many great friends, and I love the Rooney family. And, you could see that you were really building a team. And, I was ready to play if Terry got hurt. But, we went back and forth for a couple of years. Then he ultimately won the starting job, which, turned out obviously well because we won 4 Super Bowls with him. But, it was tough times back then. You just didn't – you wanted to play, but there wasn't any way that you were going to play except for just doing well on the field. So you just had to keep going.
And Terry, one of our friends in the Pittsburgh media who had the privilege of interviewing you not all that long ago said, ask Terry about how he used to torment Jack Lambert. So what used to go on between you and Jack Lambert?
Oh, who was that now? Who told you that? Hillgrove?
Potentially.
Okay, no, Lambert, I love Jack. We used to have a lot of fun. He came into the league. He was one of these guys. First of all, you can't hit the quarterback on your own team. That's you can't do that in the NFL. So I knew I had a cushion there. So I would get Lambert, and every day I'd try to do something to him. And one I had a couple running. I'd get in early, and I'd be sitting over my locker having a cup of coffee. And I'd put 2 cups of water. Your shoulder pads were above the locker. So I would put 2 cups of water under the shoulder pads, and when you pull them off, you pull the water on your head. And every time I do, you'd hear Lambert over there yelling and swearing and looking at me and just gnarling those, taking his teeth out and whatnot. So I did it for like 3 straight days. And I finally went over. I said, you dumb son of a bitch. I said, tomorrow when you come in, get up on your stool, look under your shoulder pads. If there's water, you take it out and you put it in the trash and you bring your shoulder pads down. So I'm sitting there the next day, and he walks in proud as a peacock. He goes in there, he gets up on the stool, lifts up his shoulder pads, no water. I caught him the next day. Pulled the water right down on his head. He couldn't do it for 2 days, and wasn't smart enough to do it for 2 days in a row. Let it go one day and caught him the next. But I used to blow kisses to him at practice, and he'd yell at Noel, and he'd yell out, "Hanratty's blowing kisses at me." And when he realized what he said, the whole team was just laughing their ass off, and Lambert turned bright beet red. But a hell of a football player. That year at Tampa, we had when I got there, Spurrier was the starting quarterback, so I'm sort of learning the offense. And John McKay came up to me and he says, they hadn't won a game yet. We're playing Pittsburgh, about the 9th game, we'll say. And McKay said, "Okay, it'd be good for football for you to start against the Steelers." I said, "Who said that?" And so we get ready, and I go up there and go, "Oh man, this is going to be a long day." So I mean, these guys, it was they're all my friends. I go back to pass, and Joe Green would bust through there and grab me and lay me down. Lambert would blitz, grab me, lay me down. LC come off the edge, grab me, lay me down. And we couldn't cross a 50. So in the locker room at halftime, McKay says, "Why don't you?" He says, "I'm going to put Steve in, see if he can't get something going second half." And they just kicked the shit out of him for a half. He go back to pass, and everybody level on him. And he come up and goes, "Man, your boys took care of you." But it was fun. Stuff. It was fun. 8 years of football and laughter. It was good.
I want to give a shout out to Ron Lippick. It was actually Ron Lippick who wrote the book Steeler Takeaways that told me to ask you that story.
My favorite, yeah.
Terry, before we let you go, let our listeners know, what are you doing now?
Well, I worked on Wall Street for 30 years. I live in Connecticut, and traveling the city. No, not anymore, but I did for 30 years. And am I retired? Not really, but I don't get up at 5 o'clock anymore. But I still do some work in the financial area, so it's fun. So it keeps me busy.
So how can our listeners?
My son played at Notre Dame. He was an offensive lineman, and he finished up last year. And so I was going out to Notre Dame every weekend. So this is my first year of sort of giving myself a break. And I went out for the Michigan State game for the reunion, and I'll probably just watch the rest of them on TV.
So Terry, how can our listeners stay up to date with the things that you're doing, or follow you, whether it's online or over social media?
Well, I do. I'm on Facebook, but I don't really do much. I'm an old fossil, 68. I don't know whether I want to learn all these things. The LinkedIn and my kids put me on those things. I don't know how the hell you do it. So I just sort of read those things and enjoy them.
That's great. Terry, thank you so much for taking time out of your night to be a part of the show. We hope you'll come back and share more of your stories and your insights with us. We'd love to catch up with you again sometime.
Well, you got my number, so I'm around all the time.
Thanks a lot, Terry.
Okay,
thank you very much, Terry. All the best to you and your family.
Thank you a lot. Take care.
Good night.
That is former Notre Dame and Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Terry Hanratty. And I tell you, Bob, a guy that, he won a national championship at Notre Dame. I just always wondered, he was drafted in the second round in '69, and then boom, right after that they bring in Bradshaw. We've seen it, nowadays, right? With quarterbacks, kind of wondering, what are you doing bringing in the next guy? He had 5 games, that he got to play in '69, and boom, all of a sudden there's Bradshaw. You think, well, wait a minute, is that all I get? I get 5 games, and then that's all the shot I got? So I was always curious, but always a great guy. And we've had, Andy Russell and Rocky Blyer and LC, God rest his soul, on the show, and everyone's always had such great things to say about Terry.
It's great. If people our age, Chris, that go back that far, and it's very ironic. Those are my earliest memories of college football and guys that were highly touted. And Hanratty was supposed to be the man, if you remember. And you had just mentioned, you bring in Bradshaw. It was the Terrys. Which Terry is going to lead this team? And taking nothing away from Hanratty, he was an incredibly talented guy. But you go on to take a backseat to a Hall of Famer. It's never a bad thing. But it was great watching him back then. And my goodness, I remember when he got drafted. It was how is he going to turn Notre Dame, that kind of system into the pro system, and it's all under the bridge now. But great guy, tells it like it is, and very successful in his post NFL career.
Indeed. All right, we're ready for our next guest, Vernon Turner. We're going to get to Vernon on the other side of this station identification.
Hi, this is former Rams QB Jim Everett, and you're listening to Thursday Night Tailgate, a.k.a. TNT, and it's explosive in here with my buddies, the hosts, Chris-Mascaro and bob-lazzari, and we're listening to all this on the Armed Forces Radio Network. So take it away, Ben.
All right, now back with us and making his fourth appearance on the Kaiven Foods guest line with us is Vernon Turner. Let me remind you about Vernon's background. He was an undrafted free agent signed by the Denver Broncos out of Carson Newman College, where he was part of 3 NAIA National Championship teams over his 4 years there. He was selected as a first-team All-South Atlantic Conference player back in 1989. He played wide receiver, running back, kick returner in the NFL from 1990 to 95 with the Bills, Rams, Bucs, and Lions. In 1994, he became the first person to return a punt for a touchdown in Tampa Bay Bucs franchise history. He also played over in NFL Europe for a couple of seasons for the Frankfurt Galaxy and the Scottish Claymores. He's written a book titled The Next Level, A Game I Had to Play, which is 5-star rated out there on Amazon.com. Vernon has one of the most, moving and tragic life stories that we've ever heard here on Thursday Night Tailgate. We've said for years that it belongs up there on the big screen for everyone to learn and be inspired by, which is finally in process. If you haven't heard Vernon's story, please go back through our archived interviews and, download or stream one of them. You can find it on Podbean and all the sites that we talked about at the top of the show. You can also go to VernonTurner.com to hear it there as well. And we are thrilled that Vernon is back with us again tonight here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Vernon, Chris, and Bob, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, Vernon.
Fellas, Chris, Bob, I can't tell you how. You know what? I actually miss you guys.
I do. Thank you, Vernon.
I miss you. I really do. You guys, I tell you what, out of all the radio shows and all the interviews that I've had, you guys are true a class act, and I really do appreciate the way you guys carry yourself. I thank you very much.
We appreciate you saying that very much, Vernon. So, Vernon, catch us up. How are things progressing with the movie project?
It's fantastic. As well as you may know, that Players Tribune, they optioned the rights to form the feature film, and we're actually in the process of finalizing our writer and director all in once within the next probably a week and a half. We'll have both of those locked in. I'm really excited about that because I actually interviewed, I would say interviewed. I interviewed both the writers and directors. So I'm really excited about where this project is going and the hands that it's being placed in as far as writer and director. That I'm not allowed to say, but I'm telling you that these two guys working together, they're going to be fantastic. I mean, I am so happy. It couldn't have been laid out any better than what it's about to lay out right now.
So what's the time frame expectation, Vernon? When do you expect that things will start moving along, maybe filming and that sort of thing? And have they given you any idea for how long the project's going to take to complete?
Well, I tell you what, the actual filming, I predict probably early 2017. We're going to actually start filming like very early spring. Because we have to get the talent locked in. I already have an idea of where we're going with the talent. My team has been awesome in regards to selecting just the right people to make this project come to life and resonate and capture the audience. So it's going a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a Tasmanian devil by trade. I go 100 miles. Seriously, I go 100 miles a minute, and I have to understand that the film industry is the total opposite. So it's like an oxymoron happening right now. So I'm struggling because things are going methodically, which it's supposed to, but I'm going Tasmanian devil mentally. So I have to really check. Seriously, I have to check myself all the time because I have to understand the industry. But I tell you, I have an awesome team. Jamie Messler, Derek Jeter. I have Josh Sirkin with Magic Hour Productions with Brett Gursky. The two production companies that teamed up together. I have a fantastic team. I couldn't have asked for a better team. So it's just a matter of when, not if anymore. It's a matter of when. And I truly believe that the finished product is going to resonate globally. It's going to connect with everyone, I think.
And Vernon, you've told the story, your life story, on the show a couple of times, about seeing your mom abuse drugs, right in front of you, seeing gang fights right outside your window as a kid, hearing your mom, hearing the story about your mom being raped and nearly killed, and learning you were a product of that rape, and then losing your mom 48 hours after wishing, that she died because of her lifestyle. And, every part of your childhood was incredibly difficult. And like I say, you've written a book, and now you're in the process of creating a movie. And, I know you want your experience and your resiliency to be able to help, so many other people. And it's such a great thing that, what you're doing, and we believe in it heavily. We've thought this thing should be a movie from the first time you told us the story. But I also have to imagine it's got to be, continue to be a weight on you, because it's like you're reliving all of those painful experiences over and over every single day. Does it help you cope with what happened, or does it continue to, keep the wound open, forcing you to relive painful memories all the time?
That's just probably one of the best questions that's ever been asked of me with all the interviews that I've done thus far, because to be completely blunt and honest with you, you would think that the countless amount of interviews, the countless amount of times talking about this, talking about my life, talking about those really gut-wrenching events that occurred, the tragics, you would think that it would be a little bit on the redundant side and I would get used to it. But it's the total opposite. I'm not going to say that I've come to grips with it, because I haven't. But I'm trying to figure out a way. I'm trying to figure out what God is doing right now, because I'm not sitting here and I'm not lying to you. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand how I can tell the same story 100 times over and it still feels like it happened like it was yesterday. I don't get that. I don't understand it. I can't comprehend it. I don't. It has to be a reason why it's happening to me. It really does. But moving forward is my opportunity to actually help somebody from getting themselves in the position that I am in right now today. That's the reason why I'm doing this project. That's the reason why I gave it the green light to go global as far as a film, is because I have an opportunity to help people. I have an opportunity to share those things that I did, those all good, bad, and indifferent. Share it to where somebody can learn from it, because this particular aspect of my story, my life, me not coming to grips with how my mom, she was as an awesome athlete, her life changed in a matter of an hour. Her life changed. She went from being a big-time track athlete to a drug addict and a prostitute. And then she ended up getting gang raped and then about to get killed, get thrown off the roof. And then that wasn't God's plan for her to go. His plan was for her to stay on this earth and have me. And I'm a product of what happened to her. And, times, it's just like we shared in the last episodes, guys. I was, every time she would look at me, not every time, but there were times when she would look at me, it would be cold eyes. I wouldn't know. I didn't know what the hell that was about until that dreadful day I found out when she was shooting up and she told me that story about me being how she was attacked and abused, and she would use drugs so she would not think about what happened to her. And when she would look at me, I would be a reminder. But the one thing that I can never get over, and that's the thing that I'm struggling with, was the fact that this woman, she gave me life. She really did. She could have aborted me, could have given me up for adoption. She gave me life. And then I turn around and I wish this woman dead. And I meant it. I really meant it. I meant it. I really meant it. And I got on my knees. I put my hands together, put it to the head, and I prayed that she would go. And 72 hours later, she was gone. And I will never, ever forgive myself for that. I really won't, because I'm sitting there at a gravesite, and I'm sitting here laughing and I'm crying at the same time. I'm sitting at the gravesite, and I'm begging her. I'm saying, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. So the only way that I can praise my mom right now is to do this, follow it through globally. Make sure that this message, what I did, I don't want anyone doing what I did. No one. So my thing now is that I'm in a mission to where, I'm in the same mission right now that I was when both my parents died and my brothers and sisters were about to go in foster care, and I had to make it into the National Football League or they were gone. I'm in the same mission right now. So I know, it's not an if, I know what this project is going to do. I know where it's going to go. It's just a matter of when, not if, guys.
I have questions for Vernon.
Yeah, Vernon, Chris and I always think back to the first time we spoke to you, and right after the telecast, the radio cast, we just kind of texted each other and said one word we said to each other was just movie, because it was that moving, and we knew that this had to get out globally. And it still remains the most, I think Chris will agree, the most emotional thing we've ever experienced, sports-wise or non-sports-wise. But
right.
You had mentioned earlier, Vernon, about how the movie thing is going slow, and it'll come across. But I'm sure in between a lot, you probably have a chance to speak with young people that are probably very angry at their mothers, or maybe products of one-parent households, and maybe somebody speaks ill of their mothers. And this must really, I'm not going to say get to you, but it must really pique your interest. What do you say without getting into your personal incredible story to, say, a 10-year-old Vernon who talks maybe ill of his mother or has no respect for an elder?
Oh, I did a speaking engagement over there at Florida State University. I spoke to the team and the staff during training camp, and I had an opportunity to share with them wrenching raw snapshot of my life. And at the end of the segment, at the end of me speaking with these young men, of course it was like a line of people that just wanted to say thank you. But there was one particular young man that waited until everyone was gone, and he pulled me aside, and he kept me there for an hour, and he was in tears. And I don't want to embarrass him. I don't want to mention his name, but I am now his mentor, the defensive back for one of the defensive backs for Florida State. And he captured my heart because he truly connected to what I was saying, and it was parallel, his life, the things that he was going through, and the story that I told him, that I shared with the team. He said that he had a different perspective on his mom now because of what I told him, of what I shared with him, that he doesn't no longer hate his mom, and he understands that, what she's going through. And when he told me that, everything that I'm doing right now is because of that. It's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now is to have that type of an effect, that type of impact. And that's why I'm doing this.
That's exactly why I'm doing this, to have a global impact, to change and save the perspective of views of other people. It's not about money. It's not about notoriety. I don't like any of that stuff because it brings evil. Money brings evil. Notoriety brings evil. That's just how I feel. Now, if I can be in my little cocoon, my little cubby hole, and live there I'll be fine. I don't like notoriety. I don't like the money because money brings bad stuff. I just want to take care of my things and live good. But this right here is my life. You have the two most important moments in your life is when you're born and when you find out why you're born. I know why I'm born. I'm here to share this journey that God bestowed on me to share with the world. That's all it is, man. I don't know why else I'm here. I have no clue. I shouldn't have been here. It has to be that.
And Vern, I wanted to ask, for all of us out here who, we experience some bad days, and we know you've had so many in your life, but to be around like you are right now and to basically take one day at a time, on one of those really bad days, Vernon, what advice could you give somebody? How do you get out of a funk? I mean, I know it's the entire story and you have a bigger thing to say, but what would you do? What would you suggest somebody do if they're having a really bad day and it hasn't gone through maybe something that as tragic as you, to get out of a funk and to make the day a little better? We're basically spotlighting the positive constantly on this show, and I think it's incredibly valuable that we get somebody like yours advice to get people out of just funks no matter what their life's going through.
When you think that your life is crap and all the luck is going against you, just know that I don't know how many of billions of people out there in the world, but just know that there are millions and millions and millions upon people out there in this world that have it way worse than you. I know it's a broad spectrum to actually concept to put your mind to, but with the way things are going these days, with all the issues that we have going on, all you have to do is turn on the television and watch the TV for a little while, watch the news and listen to the news, and I guarantee you'll feel a lot better about your own life. With everything that's going on out in the world today, with the whole issue with Colin Kaepernick and everything that's going on right now, it's just, it makes you appreciate you don't have it as bad. You really don't have it that bad when you look at it. But when people portray themselves as victims all the time, they can't get out that funk. They can't get out that woe is me. The one thing that I out of all the mistakes and out of all the things that I've done wrong, the one thing that I can say that I have never done is put myself in the victim mode. I'm not a victim of my DNA. I'm not a victim of my circumstances. I'm going to take control over everything that happens moving forward. I can't control what happens behind me, but I sure can control what's in front of me. And I'm going to take control of that, and I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to be a victim of my DNA. I'm not going to be a victim of my circumstances, of my environment. I will not. I will control my own destiny. And those are the messages that I give these young people, is that take control. Don't be a victim. Don't make excuses on why you can't do a certain something. That's unacceptable to me. I can't comprehend that because I've never been that way. My thing is that you want something, you go get it. You do whatever you have to do to go get it. No excuses. That's tough. That's tough to do. Not everybody can do that. You got to have a different type of mindset. You can't be a victim of your circumstances. You can't be a victim of your DNA. You can't use the victim card. The man held me down. You can't do that. You got to take control of your own life and go for it. And that was the types of messages that I give these young people when I do my speaking engagements. I'm tough. I'm raw when I talk. I'm raw because excuses are for losers. That's just how I'm built. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna fail, but we're gonna fail full speed. We're gonna fail trying. You know, that's the way you live your life. I don't know how many days, how many months, how many hours I have left on this earth. I don't. And I don't know if I'm going to wake up the next day. I live my life to the fullest each day. I'm so grateful because I don't want to take it for granted. I don't want to take this gift that my mom and God gave me. I shouldn't need to be here. So each day I live it to the fullest, and that's how I do it. That's how I do it, fellas.
Vernon, for obviously everyone listening to your message, I can't imagine how they're not moved by what you've had to say, and they're going to be even further moved, when they read your book. Again, The Next Level, a game I had to play. It's available on Amazon.com or on VernonTurner.com. How can our listeners stay up to date with all the great things that that you're going to be doing, where you're speaking, and then keep up to date with how the movie project is progressing?
I tell you, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you two fellas. I really do, Bob and Chris. You guys are truly, you're my Quan right now. You guys are awesome. Anyone who wants to, you just follow what I'm doing and follow the project. You can either go on Twitter and go to @VernonM.Turner. You can go to VernonTurner.com. And then you can just pull up on Facebook. You can just say Vernon Turner, and there's Vernon Turner-TNL will pop up. And if you guys want to ask me any questions, there's emails available for you guys on those outlets. Just, ask me direct. I'm not hiding from anyone. If you have any questions, feel free to come and just chat with me, And it may take me a little while, but I promise you and I guarantee you I will get back with you.
That's great. Vernon, you have been such a blessing to Bob and I and to the show, for our ability to get to know you and your story and try to promote it because like we've said many times, it belongs up there on the big screen, and you can't imagine how excited Bob and I both are to get the opportunity at some point to sit in the theater and watch it up there because we believe so heavily in the story and so heavily in you. Thank you so much for continuing to be a part of the show.
Well, chris-mascaro and bob-lazzari, you guys will be at the premiere in the front row right next to me. And I guarantee you that. I'm a man of my word. And when I tell you that, it's going to happen. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you guys as not only as a host of your show, but as men, as really good men. And you guys always have a special place in my heart. I appreciate you. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
Same here, Vernon. Thank you so very much. Vernon, we look forward to hopefully catching up with you and getting some more progress on the movie real soon. In between now and then, Vernon, you're in our hearts. We love you.
Love you too, guys. Take care. Love you.
Thank you.
Take care, Vernon. That is former Bucs and Rams kick returner Vernon Turner. And Bob, you said it best. There hasn't been a more moving story that we have been a part of since we started doing this show 5 years ago now than the one that we've heard from Vernon Turner.
Nothing really close, as crazy as that sounds, Chris. And I always have, I still do. Tonight I have a lump in my throat because I think back into that first conversation and what's become of I think we at the time when we said, movie material, it was beyond that. We said, this is something, I don't think we believed what we heard. And then more and more came out after that. And again, this has to, and the whole thing is to help other people. And that's what the man has, any frustration on his part is going toward that area. And it's going to be big and it's going to be hard-hitting and it's not going to be for the faint of heart. And I'm glad he speaks the way he does to young people because life is not tough. Life is not easy, Chris, and the toughness is what's going to get you by in the long run. And I don't know if there's anybody as mentally tough as Vernon Turner that we'll ever speak with. And my goodness, again, we just wish him the best of luck.
Absolutely right. All right, before we get to our next guest, Keith Millard, I want to give a shout-out to our good friend Renee Schell over at Career Engagement Institute. Folks, If you're upside down in your career, and what do we mean by that? Right? You're ready to move on. Go to careerengagement.institute to see how Renee can help you. You've heard some of our guests, Toy Cook, who's a member of our Hall of Fame, come on the show and talk about Renee, sing her praises. And if you work with Renee for 2 minutes, you're going to understand why Toy did that and why we brag about Renee every single week here on Thursday Night Tailgate. We all want to work with someone that we can trust and who actually has our best interests at heart. And folks, you know how rare it is to find somebody like that. Well, you're not going to find someone who fits that description any better than you are with Renee Schull. She is smart, creative, very talented, the kind of person you want to work with and have working for you. She's done great things for some of our guests who have been in transition from being pro athletes and are now getting into the job market, but she can do it for anybody. I'm telling you, folks, Renee is just the very best. There isn't a better way to describe her than that. If you're an athlete or anyone in the job market, do yourself a favor and reach out to Renee. You're going to be so very glad that you did. Go to careerengagement.institute online and give her a follow on Twitter @IntegratedPlay. All right, now back with us on the Kyvan Foods guest line and making his third appearance with us is Keith Millard. Let me give you some background on Keith. He is from Pleasanton, California, played his college ball at Washington State, where he was the Pac-10's top defensive lineman as a senior. 1983, he won the Pac-10 Morris Award, which is an award given out annually to the Pac-10's most outstanding offensive or defensive lineman. Last year, he was inducted into Washington State's Hall of Fame. He was a first-round draft pick, the 13th overall selection by the Minnesota Vikings in 1984, but he chose to go play in the USFL for the Jacksonville Bulls instead. Came back to play in the NFL from 85 to 1993 for the Vikings, Seahawks, Packers, and Eagles. He was a two-time Pro Bowl selection in back-to-back years in 1988 and 89, and he was named first or second-team All-Pro 4 times. In 1989, he was the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year, had 18 sacks in that season. Over the course of his career, 70 sacks in 111 games, so a pretty darn good ratio. After retiring as a player, he was a coach for the Broncos, Raiders, Bucs, and Titans. 2010, he was named one of the top 50 Vikings of all time, and he was named to the All-Decade team for the 1980s, and we are so honored that he is back with us again tonight here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Keith, Chris, and Bob, thanks for coming back on the show.
What's up, guys? Glad to be here. What's going on?
Hey, Keith.
Hey, Keith. So, Keith, let's start our time with you tonight by getting your thoughts on your alma mater, Washington State. They're coming off a 9-4 season last year, and their first season finishing over 500 since 2003. Off to a bit of a rough start so far here in 2016, 1-2, but they've got a big game Saturday night against Oregon, and they follow that up the following Saturday going to Stanford. So, give me your thoughts. How do you feel about your Cougars this season?
Well, hopefully they can get it turned around. They're having a lot of off-field issues over there that I think might be affecting them a little bit. They've got a lot of guys that, are getting in a little bit of trouble. I think it's a bit of a distraction right now. Hopefully they can get that, behind them and start focusing on football again. It's tough when you see all this negativity going around in your in your school with what's going on with these guys. There's just a big deal on ESPN the other day talking about it, and it's a bit of a distraction. But hopefully they get things turned around here pretty soon.
And Keith, your Minnesota Vikings, boy, the defense is playing so well. 9 takeaways so far this season. They lead the league with 15 sacks. Talk about what you've seen from the Vikings defense so far.
I'll tell you what, they're really playing well. I mean, they're doing a great job. Coach Zimmer I think is a big part of that. He's always been a great mind defensively. He's got those boys revved up, playing hard. The biggest surprise for me, though, is Bradford. I mean, he is really doing well. He came in with basically 2 weeks to prepare, and he's playing lights out right now. I think he's a big, huge acquisition that kind of saved them when Bridgewater went down. So, they're just going to have to keep it going. They don't have their big boy running back right now. He won't be there probably for a lot of the season. So the defense is going to have to continue to play well. But they're 3-0, and I'm really proud of them. Matter of fact, I'm going back there on October 7th for an alumni deal to see a game. on Sunday, so I'm really looking forward to that. I don't get back there that often.
Bob, questions for Keith?
Yeah, Keith, it's great to speak with you again. And
What's up, Bob?
As far as the alumni, not much, my friend. And as far as the alumni, I'm thinking, we think of Washington State. Chris and I had the opportunity to talk to Drew Bledsoe a few months back, and he's one of the more popular ones. And just how strong is the alumni network, and how often do your paths cross with a guy like Bledsoe, who 9 years probably after you, but I'm sure you definitely have spoken with him.
Oh, absolutely. And throughout the years and since I've been out of Washington State, which was, 1983, you've always kept up with the players, guys that you played with. You've always tried to stay in touch one way or another, your old coaches, Coach Walden, and try to stay as close to it as you can. I mean, it seems like every year they've always invited me to an alumni golf tournament. Bledsoe's got a tournament out there that's supposed to be really good. But unfortunately, when you're coaching in the NFL, the time that they want you to do these things is usually during training camp in the NFL or right around that time, or something to do in the off season when you're getting ready for the draft or things like that. So I haven't really been able to get back there as much as I want. But now that I'm not coaching anymore, I was able to get back for the alumni deal. That would have been tough. I'm sure I would have made it work, but it would have been tough. But now that I'm kind of kicking back and out of coaching, hopefully when those things come up, I can start getting more involved again.
I was thinking about you, Keith, this week when the word came down about a guy like J.J. Watt and bad injury for a defensive lineman. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I know Keith played at least 4 or 5 years where it was 14 or more games. That's an awful lot. And there was probably a lot of games where you were out there, and it was a different era where guys went out and played hurt and everything. But as far as for a defensive lineman, and we think Watt is one of the tougher guys out there, Keith, as far as toughness in playing while hurt. But what is the injury that a defensive lineman would have probably the most difficulty going out there and dealing with?
Well, he's got it, unfortunately.
Back.
And, it's funny that you brought his name up because somebody brought him up. It was actually when he had his first back surgery, or maybe when he had that groin injury. And things were starting to add up as far as his little nicks and bruises and things of that nature. And I remember thinking back to my career, because we pretty much played the same position. We had a lot of the same style. He's an all-out guy. He's very passionate. He plays and practices the exact same way. I mean, he's 110% everything he does. And one of the things that I said in reply to the article that I saw when he got hurt was, it takes a toll on your body. I mean, he makes contact on every single play. He plays so hard against, double teams, triple teams. He's coming off one blocker, dealing with another one, the combination stuff that people don't realize the torque that he's putting on that body, and not just in games but practice. And at some point when you go that hard, something's going to give. And I think we're starting to see that a little bit now. In my career, I was the same type of person, very passionate, worked very hard in practice, off seasons to prepare, put a lot of torque and pressure on my body to prepare myself to play. And things started to give out, little injuries here, little injuries there, and they add up. And when they add up, they're hard to come back from. And with the back, that's a serious injury, and he probably came back too soon from the first surgery, and now he's out for the season. Those are the kind of things that I went through when I played, and that's pretty much why I had a short career. I had a good career, but it was short. It was nothing that I thought it would be. But I see a lot of the same traits with him right now, and really, as you look around the league, there's a lot of guys getting hurt, a lot of serious injuries that are putting guys out for the season. And I always think back to, football these days. It's, and been in the coaching business, it's year round now. When I played, we had off seasons. We could go home and and get away. We'd come back for one mini camp for a weekend, and then we'd go back home and start camp in July. Well, now you get 1 month, basically 1 month, 6 weeks to 2 months at the most after the season ends, 16 to 20 whatever game season, depending on if you're in the playoffs or not. And then you're home for 6 to, weeks or so to 2 months. And then you're right back, coming back for OTAs and things of that nature, which is a big commitment because you're weightlifting, you're running, you're going through all those things that you're torquing your body out, and then that's off-season program. And then when OTAs start, I'll tell you right now, those OTAs are serious business. Now they're 2 hours, hour and a half. You have no pads on, but you're going very hard. You got team drills, individual drills. I mean, you're doing everything that you would do in a training camp, just without pads, but you're still torquing the body, and NFL players are the most competitive people there are. So when you're doing a team drill, even if you don't have a helmet, you're going pretty hard. You're doing things to get yourself ready to play at the highest level. So there's only one way you can do that, and especially for a defensive lineman, you have to do it full speed. That's the only way you can get ready to play and be successful. Everything has to be full speed, so you keep your timing, your quickness, all your attributes, your hands, all of the hand speed stuff. That all has to be done at full speed to make sure you're ready to play and for those things to work when you need them to work. So it's a heavy, heavy load on your body, and some guys can take it and some guys can't. My body gave out, and it sounds like, God forbid, I hope it's not true, but it sounds like JJ's is giving out on him a little bit.
Keith, just a couple more before we let you go. And I saw the opinion that you shared on Facebook regarding whether athletes should stand during the national anthem. And our show goes out over the Armed Forces Radio Network. I was curious if you would mind sharing your take on that issue.
I totally get it, what's going on in our country, and it's a bad thing that has to be fixed. And I totally get it and understand that people should definitely stand up for what's right. I do have a problem with the thing that everybody's doing right now. I know everybody's got to make a point, and I see their point. I understand they got to make a point, but I just have a problem based on the way I was raised and the things that I believe with either kneeling or sitting down during the anthem. I think this country's me myself. I come from a very humble background, to say the least, very humble. And I would not be where I am today if I didn't live in this country, if I didn't have the opportunities that I had. And I'm very proud of that, and it means a lot to me. And I know it means a lot to all the people that are sitting down and kneeling down. But I just believe when the anthem's going that we need to stand up and put our hands over our heart and give tribute to the American flag, because it means so much to so many people and for so many different reasons, that just giving it its respect for that in itself, to me, means everything. I just think there's other ways you can go about protesting things that aren't going well in this country, and believe me, there's a lot. We're a mess right now.
One more, Keith, before we let you go, and I also see on your Facebook page that you have posted a trailer for the movie The Magnificent Seven, and the original series of those movies back from the 60s are my father's favorite movies of all time.
Great.
So I got to ask you, what's got you excited about it?
I can't wait. Yeah, I'm excited about it too. Denzel Washington, I'm so happy he's in it. He's going to do a great job in that movie. I don't know a lot of the other characters in it, but as soon as I saw that he was in it, I can't wait for it to start. I'll be there the first night it opens. I'm a big cowboy movie fan, always have been. I've seen the first series like you're talking about in the 60s, which basically tells you how old I am. It's a great series. It's a great storyline, and no better person to get it going again than Denzel Washington. So I'm pretty fired up.
That's great. Keith, remind our listeners, how can they follow you online and over social media as well?
They can go to CoachMillard.com. It's a little site I've always had out. They can go to Keith at CoachMillard.com. They can go to Keith J. Millard @gmail.com.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Keith, for continuing to come and be a part of the show. We love your enthusiasm and what you bring to the segment when you're a part of it. Can't thank you enough for continuing to come and be a part of the show with us. Hope you'll come back again soon and share more of your stories and your insights with us, my friend.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
All right, take care, Keith. All the best to you and your family.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Good night.
That is former Washington State Cougars and Minnesota Vikings Pro Bowl defensive tackle Keith Millard. Love his enthusiasm, Bob. Always in his voice. You just know, boy, if he just talked to you and you never knew about his career or whatnot, you would say that guy was an awesome defensive tackle in the NFL. I just know it.
And he was, Chris. How about those 18 sacks that one year? I remember
right?
he was incredible that one year. That's and he makes a good point about the injuries. That was probably double his best sack total before that. And, everyone has a shelf life, Chris, and that game is rough. And those guys in the trenches, as they're being successful, we don't know exactly what's happening to their body until a few years later, and we're starting to find that out. It's a very rough game, and the more and more we watch the NFL these days, Chris, it's more and more about who's standing come January.
Mm-hmm. But, Keith has, been, one of the great guys that we've gotten an opportunity to meet in 2016. So blessed to have him now on the show for a third time. Certainly look forward to catching up with him and hearing more of his thoughts and his stories, hopefully later on in the season. But when we look back on 2016, having Keith Millard and getting to meet him and have him a part of the show is definitely one of the big blessings we've had this year. All right, when Bob and I come back, we'll be turning on the Thursday Night Tailgate Spotlight on the Positive. Then we'll wrap up the show, and we're going to do that on the other side of these words from our friends over at Coastal Orthopedics and Kyvan Foods.
Are you suffering from chronic pain in your shoulders, hips, knees, or wrists? Tired of living life with an old injury that just won't go away? If you answered yes to either of these questions, we can help. At Coastal Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Dr. Candelora and his fine staff of medical professionals will get you back on the road to recovery. Their state-of-the-art facility and attention to detail will ensure you will be enjoying life again and feeling invincible in no time. Since 1991, Dr. Candelora and Coastal Orthopedics have been specializing in joint replacement, arthritis, and osteoporosis care, as well as pediatric and adult general orthopedics. Visit us on the web, www.bone-dr.com, or call our Newport Richey office just north of Tampa at 727-848-1417. Proud sponsors of Mike Ditka's The Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund.
This is Reggie Kelly, former Cincinnati Bengals and Atlanta Falcon tight end, and I'm the owner of Kyvan Foods. And if you enjoy delicious food, you're going to love my Kyvan products, which consists of our honey apple salsa, sweet barbecue sauce, and an array of seasonings. For store locations, online orders, and recipes, check out our website at www.kyvan82.com. That's KYVAN 82.com. One taste, and you'll appreciate the goodness.
Hey, welcome back. This is Todd Washington, two-time Super Bowl champ, offensive line coach for the Baltimore Ravens, and you are listening to Thursday Night Tailgate with my boys Chris-Mascaro and bob-lazzari on the Armed Forces Radio Network. Go get them, guys.
And we're back here on Thursday Night Tailgate, and we're turning on our spotlight on the positive. Bob, what do you got for us this week?
Oh, Chris, it's ironic. We talked about salsa and Kyvan salsa at the beginning of the show, but I think of salsa, and I also think of Victor Cruz, right? And Victor Cruz here in New York with his salsa dance in the end zone. Well, I don't think people realize that what he does off the field, Chris, is really good stuff. This is a guy, of course, coming back this year after a brutal injury, not playing in a long time. People didn't think if he would ever step back on the field, and he's actually starting to thrive again. But over all that time, Chris, even when he was hurt, he was very active back in his hometown of Paterson, New Jersey. He's very involved in the Boys and Girls Club of Paterson, New Jersey. Now, I remember last year it was big news up in the Northeast here. He was having a huge holiday toy drive, and he teamed with a medical group in that area. and they did an incredible job. And if you go to NewJersey.com, NJ.com, there's videos of it, and kids listening to him speak. He does a lot of speaking to kids and all. But a lot of his Victor Cruz Foundation funds, Chris, go toward health screening for kids. And we talked earlier about the importance of cancer. Well, how about kids that get health screened at a very early age who can't probably otherwise afford it or whatever? But he's into the healthy eating thing, preventive care, and that's what a lot of his funds and all he does, a lot of these charity events go toward children and their health. And what can be better than that, Chris? But kudos to Victor Cruz. Whether he's playing or not, he's doing good things off the field.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff, Bob. And, Bob, tonight I want to put the spotlight on former Seahawks running back Marshawn Lynch. He has been spending his retirement giving back to others. Back in February, Marshawn took a trip to broaden football's reach over to Egypt. And earlier this month, he helped make improvements to a community center in his hometown of Oakland, California. More recently, Bob, he linked up with former Lions player Stephen Tulloch and the Seahawks Cliff Averill to travel over to Haiti, where they built some houses, they built a school, they did some work on an orphanage, plus they handed out clothes, all with Cliff Averill's foundation. So, and they're also hosting a mobile medical clinic and a football camp to help international charities and an organization called Free the Children. So, Bob, Marshawn Lynch isn't resting. He's being beast mode now. Is beast moding, helping people, whether it's in his hometown of Oakland or places abroad like Haiti. So, kudos to Marshawn Lynch for being a positive influence, and to Cliff Averill and Stephen Tulloch as well for the great work that they're doing, rebuilding and building up, places that need it over there in Haiti. And again, Marshawn Lynch for doing this, the stuff that he is doing in his hometown of Oakland. So, Bob, kudos to Victor Cruz and to Marshawn Lynch. And those are two stories that is exactly why we do this segment every week here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Again, letting people know about the great things that current and former players are doing to make a positive impact on the lives of people, all around the world, Bob.
That's correct. And again, as you mentioned weekly, Chris, these are the stories that aren't on page one or on the front page of the sports section. They go under the radar in lieu of the shock journalism that you and I are so totally against. But and it seems to come through to our guests, Chris. They often bring up that they like the positivity aspect of it. And all these people that come on are very positive people, and we would have it no other way. And my goodness, any show where you can get a guy like Vernon Turner and to give back, that'll tug at your heartstrings like anything. And I think he might have been the one that really spearheaded it all as far as us checking ourselves at the door and thinking that we have some tough days. Well, let's rethink that. But it's about positivity with me and you, and I hope it always will be, Chris.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely will be, Bob. The Thursday Night Tailgate Spotlight on the Positive. Again, guys doing great things in the community, in their communities here and around the world as well. Tune in every week. You're going to get two of those here on Thursday Night Tailgate. All right, Bob, it is time for us to put a bow on this episode. Our thanks again to Gary Burley, Tony Collins, Terry Hanratty, Vernon Turner, and Keith Millard for joining us. And, Bob, as always, thank you, my friend, for making Thursday night so great.
Thank you for putting it together, Chris. Another great show, and I'm sure you have something lined up for next week, too.
Indeed we do. Next week, we're going to be joined by John Luke, and John is the featured auctioneer from A&E's show Storage Wars. He was born and raised in North Harlem, New York, and he's been a big follower of the show. We thank him very much for that. So it's going to be fun to get his take on the Jets and Giants next week. So look forward to John Luke being a part of the show. Our good friend and former Vikings and Chargers Pro Bowl guard and TNT Hall of Famer Ed White going to be back with us. Always great getting to talk to Ed. Hall of Fame defensive tackle Curly Culp is going to be making his TNT debut with us. Excited about that, and very excited as well. Former Steelers tackle Craig Wolfley also going to be making his TNT debut. So a lot of new guests on board to join us next week. Going to be very excited for next week. I'm already excited for next week. Who am I kidding? And, of course, Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins is going to be here to go back over our 5-star picks of the week. So going to be a really fun show next week. We hope you'll come back and sharing it with Bob and I. Want to remind you how you can follow us on social media. On Facebook, we got a Thursday Night Tailgate page. Please give us a like and interact with us there. Bob and I both have our individual Facebook pages as well that we invite you to come and interact with us there on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. I am at CT-mascaro. Bob is at Bob_Lazzari, and the show is at TNT Podcast. Plus, you can stream or download any of our archive episodes for free, folks, on great podcasting sites. Podbean, we can't thank those guys enough for recommending us on their banner ads on their mobile app as well for the last few weeks. Thank you so much for doing that for us. You can also stream us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker, Stitcher, Audio Boom, Player.fm, SoundCloud. We're all over the net, so you can take us with you everywhere you go and listen to any one of our shows that you like. And if there's a favorite app that you have that we're not on, please let us know. We'll make sure we get on there for you as well. Bob, take us home, my friend.
All right. Thank you, Chris. And, of course, thanks go out to our announcer, Joe LaGenusa, for the great job he does with our weekly intro and ads, and to James Brocato and all the guys from Painted Faces for our upcoming outro music. On behalf of myself and Chris, we thank everyone tonight for listening. We appreciate you the most. Until next week, good night, Kevin. We miss you.